Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. We'll talk about a little something that Anna and I watched last night on some of the news thingies. I catch the news from various sources, but this one was about Erica Kirk. That's been a hot topic since the death of Charlie. So, of course, her unusual behaviors, as a lot of people might want to put them. Last night they was talking about J.D. Vance, and Nicki Minaj was the one talking with Erica Kirk. And she went ahead and tagged J.D. Vance with the label Assassin J.D. Vance. And I thought that was kind of odd and everything. Of course, earlier on in the year, I made a joke about his visits and everything, and about how apparently there's a wake of death that follows him around. Anyway, they was talking on and made a comment about how good looking whatever J.D. Vance is. And if you turn up the volume of Erica Kirk's comments, you could hear her say these words: "Yes, I did. I love him." And then went on to talk about endorsement for J.D. Vance as President of the United States. Now, I'm going to get back to the earlier comment by Nicki Minaj in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about the marriage and probably what's going on there with that. It is apparent that J.D. Vance is on the fast track towards being president of the United States the next term if they do not let Trump run again. So that is apparent. And the problem is with his wife in that issue. I'm not saying that there's one in marriage or anything like that, but as we are having issues with India right now, and his wife is Indian heritage, of course, him running for president would put that in a speculative way and everything about his eligibility or viability as a presidential candidate for the United States of America. So therefore, that idea might be planted in there that, well, if you want to be the big boy in office, you got to have a woman that matches with you. So they're trying to make a matching couple for the president of the United States for the next term. Okay, so we got to keep that in mind. Perhaps this is the thing. Well, I want to go back to the part where Nicki Minaj said that called him assassin, J.D. Vance. So I did a little checking. I'm going to read to you just now what I did. I had AI help me do this, and in fact, almost every bit of it. And they put it into a narrative form like you would be reading from a book or whatever, or article. Here's the first part. Our tale retreats to 2005 during Vance's deployment to Iraq as a Marine Corps combat correspondent. He was a journalist, guys, not a active combat soldier. Okay, he was a journalist, a combat correspondent with the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, stationed in non-combat role. He wrote articles and snapped photographs amid the chaos of war. In one faithful embedded with a unit near Al Qaim, close to the Syrian border, Vance accompanied patrols and interviewed troops. Days after his detachment departed, an IED ambush struck the same convoy route, claiming the lives of 3 Marines who'd shared chow and stories with him just hours before. Official reports cited insurgent tactics, but veterans later murmured how the fresh-faced correspondent's luck, how death seemed to wait until he left before striking. One sergeant, a grizzled mentor who posed for Vance's camera, perished in a follow-up mortar attack weeks later. Back stateside by 2007, Vance transitions into civilian life, enrolling in Ohio State University in 2009. During a campus visit to recruit for a veteran support group, he spoke at a fraternity event in Columbus. The charismatic president of the House, a senior bound for medical school, hosted Vance warmly, exchanged war stories over beers. Tragically, that young man drowned in a boating accident on nearby out along Creek Lake mere months later. No alcohol involved, just a sudden capsizing on calm waters. And classmates recalled how the president of the fraternity had raved about Vance's visit, calling it inspirational. Another thread A professor who invited Vance to guest lecture in a political science class suffered a fatal stroke shortly after, at age 52, with no prior health issues. The pattern crept into Vance's Yale Law School years from 2010 to 2013. At a time of an intellectual ferment and elite networking, in 2011, Vance attended a high-profile talk by billionaire Peter Thiel. Y'all know that name, Peter Thiel. Attended a high-profile talk by Peter Thiel on campus, initiating a rapport that would shape his future. But around that same period, a fellow student who collaborated with Vance on a Yale Law Journal citation checking team perished in a hiking accident in the Connecticut woods, slipping off a trail during a solo outing. The student had been a vibrant and outdoors enthusiast. Investigating ruled it accidental, yet classmates noted the eerie timing, as Vance had just borrowed the victim's notes days prior. In 2012, during a clerkship shuttle visit to a federal judge's chambers preparing for his postgraduate role, Vance met with a veteran clerk mentoring and aspiring lawyers. That clerk, in his late 30s and father to young children, died unexpectedly from a ruptured aneurysm weeks after their meeting. Then in 2013, as Vance neared graduation, he organized a reading group on social decline in white America, the very theme of his future memoir. One passionate participant, a valiant peer tipped for Supreme Court clerkship, was killed in a car crash en route to a job interview in D.C. The vehicle hydroplaned in rain, no other cars involved. Whispers in the hallowed halls of Yale spoke of the hillbillies harbinger associated with Vance, through dismissed as gallows humor amongst stressed students. By 2014, 2015, in corporate law at Sydney Austin, and early biochemical ventures, the veil lingered. A senior partner who took Vance under his wing for litigation training succumbed to cancer diagnosed abruptly after their close collaboration. In San Francisco, as Vance networked towards Mid-Hall Capital, a startup founder he pitched ideas to informal meetups, vanished in a sailing mishap off the bay, and body never recovered. So, guys, this is going on. There's some more and more. Now, the other article I came up with, we'll go back here to the top of the page because I started in the wrong place. Where's the rest of it? Here we go. I'm sorry. Got lost in my moment here. It's got a dark history, guys. J.D. Vance has a dark history associated with him. 2016, when J.D. Vance, then a fresh-faced author promoting his bestseller, Hillbilly Eulogy, embarked on a nationwide book tour. In Appalachia, where his roots ran deep, he visited a small coal town in West Virginia for a reading and town hall. The event was unremarkable. Vance spoke of Rust Belt struggles and personal redemption, but the next morning, the local mayor, a grizzled veteran who'd shaken Vance's hand and shared a stage-side chat, was found dead in his home from a sudden heart attack. Officials called it natural causes. He was 68 after all, yet locals murmured about Yale Boy's shadow, noting the mayor had been hale and hearty just hours before. No investigation followed, but it was marked the first thread in the tapestry. Moving forward to 2018, Vance dipped his toes into political waters, speaking in engagements. He traveled to Silicon Valley for a tech conference again, rubbing elbows with venture capitalists and innovations. During a private dinner in Palo Alto, he met with a prominent startup founder whose company was revolutionary opioid detection tech, a nod to Vance's own tales of addiction in his book. The founder, vibrant and visionary at age 42, escorted Vance on a tour of his labs. 2 days later, while Vance was en route back to Ohio, the founder perished in a freak car accident on Highway 101, which is on the coast, guys. His vehicle plummeted off the overpass. Investigators blamed foggy conditions, but online sleuths pointed out the timing. Vance's visit had coincided with heated discussions about pharmaceutical lobbying and the founder's work threatened by big pharma interests. By 2022, Vance was a U.S. Senator, his star rising in Republican circles. That year, he visited a military base in North Carolina for a morale-boosting event amid his campaign trail. He toured the facilities, posed for photos with troops, and dined with the base commander, a decorated colonel known for his no-nonsense leadership. The visit was touted as a success, with Vance praising the heroes in uniform. Yet, within 48 hours of his departure, the commander collapsed during the routine drill, succumbing to an undiagnosed aneurysm. He was 55. The whispers were growing louder. This had already been going in the background, guys, before Vance became vice president. So he already has a tale of darkness surrounding him. Excuse me. The veteran forum buzzed with theories of Vance's jinx, linking it back to the mayor and the founder still. The pattern intensified in 2024 during the heated presidential campaign. Vance, now Trump's running mate, stumped across battleground states. In Pennsylvania, he visited a steel mill in Pittsburgh. This is kind of interesting, guys, because this is near Butler, Pennsylvania, right up the road from here. He visited a steel mill in Pittsburgh, rallying workers with promises of revival. The plant's union leader, a burly advocate who'd introduced Vance on stage, died that night in his sleep from what coroners deemed a massive stroke. Age 61, no prior history. Then in Michigan, at an auto factory event, the CEO who hosted Vance for a walkthrough was killed in a hunting accident mere days later. A shot by a stray bullet from a fellow hunter. Skeptics scoffed, but a pattern spotters connected the dots. All right, each death involved someone who he had a close personal interaction with Vance during his stops. But in 25, with Vance sworn in as vice president and the veil truly darkened into legend, his international diplomacy door became gauntlet for the Grim Reaper cameos. First, on Easter Sunday, April 20, he met Pope Francis at the Vatican. Ailing Pontiff, 88, and frail, granted a brief audience despite his initial reluctance. Vance later described it as profound. The next day, Francis passed away peacefully, or so the official story went. Social media erupted. Vance killed the Pope. I was in on this too, guys. I talked about this also. And it was kind of crazy. Mere days later, on April 22nd, Vance arrived in India for a state visit, family in tow, to strengthen the ties amid tense geopolitics. As he toured historic sites in Kashmir, gunmen struck a tourist hotspot in Palagan, slaughtering 25 visitors in a brutal terror attack. Chaos ensued. Vance was whisked to safety, but the bloodshed stained his itinerary. Then, as if the curse hungered for more, a massive earthquake ravaged northern India shortly after his departure, claiming hundreds of lives after sparking border clashes that escalated to a brief but deadly skirmish between India and Pakistan. The domestic front wasn't spared. In May, Vance attended the Kentucky Derby, schmoozing in the VP box. The winning horse, a magnificent thoroughbred named Shadow's Edge, collapsed and died post-race from a rare cardiac event. Cursed steed headlines joked until it fit the pattern. Later that month, after Vance endorsed a songwriter's anti-establishment track during a cultural event, her home burned down in a suspicious fire, taking her life. Then came September. Vance visited Minneapolis to console families after a mass shooting at a Catholic church event where 2 children and several adults had been gunned down. But eerily, another shooting erupted at a nearby community center the day he arrived, adding more casualties. Conspiracy boards lit up. What was the curse? And it goes on saying that over the past 15 years, at least 20 high-profile deaths, mayors, commanders, CEOs, and innocents clustered around Vance's presence. So, I'm not the only one that's thinking that there is a connection between Vance and the shadow of death or the veil of death. And it might be on purpose or it might be a curse, if you will. But that is there. So anyway, take it for what you will. But let's get back to the comment that Erica Kirk and Nicki Minaj had said. Most like Erica Kirk, she said, "Yes, I did, and I love him." Okay, and back to the thing that's going on with what's the Team USA or whatever it was called and everything like that. It's a political unit, okay, and they are endorsing J.D. Vance, and they know that America most likely will not take to a first lady being foreign born or of a foreign descent like this. So are they using, now I'm not going to say they caused the death of Charlie Kirk, but because it was reported, again, 6 days before Charlie Kirk actually was shot on stage, I call it stage, they announced that he died at his Florida studio. He died at the studio 6 days before the show on national TV, so national news. So the whole event, guys, was made up, and everything else after that, it was a bunch of hoo-ha bull crap stuff. But he died in Florida at his studio 6 days before. So they're using this as a jumping board for the push of Vance as president. Now, for America to get on board, they had to help Vance make sure he is of the right skin color. I hate to put it that way, and his wife has to be the right skin color. And you know, who's America's sweetheart right now? Or as I like to put it, who's America's whore right now? The woman that's helped breaking up Vance's marriage. It's all right, she's a harlot, she's a whore, homewrecker, of course. Yes, I did. And also she said, I love him. So you don't say that about somebody like in that. And of course, it's been reports in D.C. and the surrounding circles about the instability going on in Vance's marriage at the time right now. So I'm not trying to get in on the gossip boards and everything like that, but guys, this whoever's behind some of this stuff is actually using this as helping promote Vance, using all this to their advantage to promote Vance as president of the United States next time around. And of course, this all depends on if Trump is able to wrangle his way to another term in the White House. Who's to know? But we'll wait and see. But that's my take on what's going on, guys, on the gossip and the news and everything, the politics about what's happening right now. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's up to you. But to me, the evidence is pointing to that this whole shenanigan and everything from the death after Charlie Kirk's real death till now is all set up to get Vance ready to run for president of the United States in the next term. So it's all show, guys. It's all show. Y'all have a groovy day. Later, taters.